Hello, and welcome to the second level. I hope
Second
like the
level.
new music. Second level? I don't know. Second season of the next level. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm so stunned by that new intro music. That was just awesome. Thank you, Rob, for putting that together. Yeah, so we are back. We are into our second season of the next level, and the characters are now 7th level, not second level. So things have progressed. And I thought I'd start tonight off. Well, actually, there's a couple things. We'll go through our usual element, but we did get a suggestion, something we can use in the first half of the episode today, which is a Hot Springs episode. So thank you, Nico Vallis, for that. We will try and work that in. And for the second half, things to think about. What character or NPC do you want to find out a little bit more about? If you give us some suggestions, maybe we'll see if we can work that into the episode today. So that's number one. Number two is Leon, let's do your start of session roll so we don't forget that.
Oh, yeah, I had actually forgotten all about that.
Yeah, see? There's going to be lots of reminders tonight. 21. Oh my, wow.
Yeah.
Well, you've broken 100.
And this is
Okay.
Leon trying to open the book that she accidentally broke, right?
Yep.
I didn't break it. I just removed the magic that allowed it to be opened.
Yeah, like breaking. And
Perfectly intact.
for my sake and for our players' sake and for all of you viewers out there, I'm going to do a bit of a recap of season 1. So just in case you missed sort of any of the episodes, I'm going to sort of give the highlights, and maybe that will help remind our characters of a few things as well. So this will probably take a little bit of time. I've got like 8 pages of notes here, but I'll go through them as quickly as I can. I will try not to speak too fast, but if you miss things, there's always questions afterwards. So in our first episode, Gildy hired the rest of the crew to go into the Shadow Forest for a job that she'd been hired to do. Jacob was recovering from some mystical loss of memory, but met his sister and her friend Yumi. Didn't get a really good chance to talk to them, though. Hope to do that more once they got back from their new adventure. Leon did some research about the Shadow Forest, and that it seems to have some connections to the Shadow Fell. The party left Silver Lake and started to get to know each other. Tor and Talon tried to talk, but that didn't really happen. They fought some bugs in a farmer's field, learned that Tor doesn't like bugs. Jacob had been having some recurring dreams of a strange half-elf girl he knew from childhood, but he hadn't been sharing that with the party yet. Leon tried to make some small talk and discovered that Jacob can do some healing, and Leon had purchased some magic items to produce light for the Shadow Forest. Mint had boots of speed, and Gildy doesn't like talking about the Moorish Empire or the war. A Pegasus arrived with a note and a gift for Talon, a drift globe from his god, the Archmage. The group entered the Shadow Forest, and everything seemed fine at first, but once they were off the path, the shadows deepened, and some even moved like fog, blocking their way. They fought some shadow creatures. One of the knights, after when everyone else woke up, Jacob didn't. And when investigated, the Leon found out this had something to do with divine energies. They met a white anthropomorphic rabbit in a vest who was late for something and led them through the forest to a wall of hardened shadows that they eventually all got inside. Started a rather big fight with corrupted individuals that seemed to be sort of other races now corrupted down into something almost unrecognizable. Some corrupted wizards of the same sort of nature, as well as a shadow entity guarding a ball at the center of the dome. There were other people that were taking shadow essence from the ball to sort of others to sort of fill them up. The party had a big fight there, ended up concentrating their fire on that the main shadow creature and the orb, won that day, and discovered that when they destroyed the orb, that also destroyed the dome. On their way back to town, Jacob and Torok talked about their mutual lack of memory. Jacob used some sense to help Torok remember little bits of his past. Jacob had another dream and now remembered that the half-elf girl's name was Mirdu. Leon tries to convince the rest of the group that they needed to cleanse the Shadow Forest of this evil. Alphonse wanted to help, but believes that the Shadow Weaver is behind all of this, and that's a god of this world. Once out of the forest, they celebrated a little, getting a bit too drunk off of a magical skin of mead. Leon, while drunk, mentions a palace and her fiance and how she can't go home. Once back in Silver Lake, Jacob has finally a chance to talk to his sister, tell her about his memory loss and can't remember anything before a year ago. So she tells him a little bit of their family and growing up in Haram on a farm. Apparently he was a bit of an odd boy and had an imaginary friend named Mirdu. Jacob eventually left, apprenticed to a gnome named Zanfal, and Laurie, his sister, also left home, traveling to the Far East, learning many things and meeting her new friend Yumi. Leon, at the same time, discovers that some of their loot from the dome is ancient copper coins from some kingdom in the Haramidine Desert from long ago. That was the thing that I'm like, I'm not sure if we ever actually resolved that or not. You may still have those. The next day, Leon realizes their bag of holding is missing, goes to the city watch, still goes to the library and researches how to undo the corruption caused by the Shadow Forest. Talon visits an underworld contact he knows named Mordai, and finds out that an item has gone missing, stolen from Kayinsa, which is one of the leaders of the syndicate. Talon's friend Morgan is suspected there, and the syndicate is looking for Morgan. Morgan also happens to be Gildy's child. So Gildy goes to see Morgan, finds Brato, who's Morgan's friend, who's worried for Morgan. They're missing. They were planning a big score and hadn't returned from that. Talon also looks into Morgan's disappearance and learns that Dax Varian is looking for Morgan, a dangerous fellow, and another dangerous one on his crew is Kavash, the half-dragon. Talon and Gildy meet up and exchange notes on Morgan at that point. Leon puts some feelers out for their bag of holding, talking to her friend Rindel Prestus, who mentions someone who's good at finding things, who will get in touch. Later that day, the enigmatic Misty arrived, takes the job. Leon has a bit of a bad feeling about her, though, and wonders if they made a mistake. Shortly after this, Leon is approached by a halfling who says they know where Leon's bag of holding is, and they can return it, but the money will be missing. Leon agrees, gets the bag back, and when Leon offers the halfling wizarding assistance as a reward, the halfling seems to pay attention. They need to get out of the city, and Leon will figure out some way to do that. Jacob talks to Mint about his old master Zanfel. She knew the gnome. Her family had been hiding artificers back in Jandisa. Mint buys the Stone of Healing, also takes a bit of time away from the others to receive and transmit a message to Lieutenant Mistweaver, who now we have met in game. Jacob goes to the clipped card to Gandalf, mentions he's an artificer. Another at the table is interested in this, and Jacob follows the other man back to his lodging house where Jacob is apprehended. Turns out these are Mournish army men, and their captain, named Philip Alvian, has been sort of looking for artificers, wants Jacob to come willingly, but at that point Jacob has a memory that the captain's voice, he's heard it before, it's talking to his master, they're arguing, there's gunfire. At that point, he hears Mirdu's voice saying, "This is not for you to remember." Tor is warned by some strange dark fey woman of Jacob's capture. He grabs Mint and his magical stuffy, leads him through the city. They meet up with the others, and he tells them his stuffy isn't ordinary, it contains the spirit of a dead god. When they meet up, Gildy and Leon exchange notes, and Leon realize that the halfling that they've been talking to is actually Morgan. They get to where Jacob is being held, scout the location. Jacob, while captured, gets friendly with a half-Golgath woman named Iris. She seems to like him. Talon is contacted by a nearby underworld friend, Zarin, who is played by one of our guests, Steve Stewart, who agrees to help in the rescue. The party tries to get Jacob out. Things go from bad to worse, and though they free Jacob, the boarding house almost burns down. The party does manage to get away, though, and heads back to the Minstrel's Muse, where they had been staying and where Morgan is. Only then realizing that Gildy hasn't actually been with them for a chunk of time now, because Gildy ran back to find Morgan once she learned they were at the Muse. Takes Morgan to an abandoned temple, leaves them there to find her friends, brings them back to the temple as well, though Jacob and Leon try to go off and finish a few things in town. Leon, however, is caught by the group looking for Morgan. She uses Earth Tremor to get away, running up a wall and dodging arrows, fleeing into the Upper Merchants District. The brutes go looking for her, and the party, luckily hearing her cries, comes to help. Talon distracts the enemies while the rest of the group meets up with Leon at the Mews. Morgan gives Leon her stolen money back from the bag of holding, and eventually they reconnect with Jacob and then start going about getting Morgan and Brotto out of town. They find Talon around dawn. Leon does some last-minute procurement and happens upon 2 disguised blue dragons who happen to be in town. And some of the others send messages to those in town telling them they probably will be away from a while. And then, yes, Leon uses their bag of holding to store Morgan and Brotto and sneak them out of town. The others leave by a different route. They meet up. Morgan at this point actually shows them the statue that they stole. It's a beautiful work, worth a fortune, but they're not quite sure what they can do with it. While figuring that out, the party is happened upon by a wounded rider who asks for help. His village has been attacked by strange bandits. The group acquires a wagon and hurries to help, though since most of them didn't sleep well the night before and don't get a chance to sleep that day, they're all fairly exhausted. They arrive at the village of High Fort to find a battle scene, many dead. The attackers seem to be part of some group identified as the Fire Soul, a ruthless cult. They find a healer and some living defenders who tell the group that the attackers are after the Life Stone, a precious artifact that this village has been protecting, hidden in their minds for years. Jacob, at this point, has a memory of being under attack and running. The voice of Mirdu saying she should be helping, but there's little she can do with Jacob being the only one believing in her. The group goes into the mines. The attackers have been here. There's many dead. There's a few that are not the dead. The attackers are guarding the entrance, but they meet a friendly fairy dragon named Jalazaban, who helps the party defeat the Fire Soul at the entrance. They capture one of the cultists who tells them that there's many others down here and roughly where they might be. They follow an underground river deeper into the mines, fighting some more cultists, freeing some of the defenders, and finally getting to a sort of a boss fight deep in the mines at the cave where the Life Stone is stored. Unfortunately, Jalazaban dies, giving his life to help the party, but the fight finally ends when a gust spell from Leon pushes the cult leader into a river of lava. The group collect up the Life Stone and find out that people glow when they touch it. After that, Jacob collapses into sleep and has a vision of himself as a young man trying to convince his family Mirdu exists. They don't believe him, and Mirdu tells him that they don't believe, so they cannot see me. They need to believe or have the mind of a child to see me. The others commemorate Jalazaban in a night of celebration and mead and fall asleep. The next day, the Life Stone defenders give the Life Stone to the party to take care of. They destroy the mines and they will move on, leading any others who are seeking them away. The party heads south to Talon's monastery, which is at the north end of the Shadow Forest. They're not going to go back to Silver Lake, so they do send word to Alphonse to meet them at Gildy's house outside the city when they get there. Leon realizes someone is scrying upon them, and perhaps it's the people who are looking for Morgan. Jacob has another vision of Mirdu telling him she's dead. The next day, they spot someone on a cart traveling a road. Leon goes and investigates and meets someone who knew Jacob as a boy. He tells Leon about Jacob, the child. The party makes good time and gets to the Shadow Forest, making their way into the dark domain carefully, but safely getting to the monastery where Talon was trained. The abbot is happy to see Talon, and when told about Morgan and Brotto, he says he'd happily take them in if they're willing to take vows. They seem to agree. Leon is curious to look through the library here, and that night, Talon is woken in his sleep by a gnome named Gerbo, who needs his help on a secret mission to destroy the temple. Talon goes along, but is a little uncertain about this. Talon has been troubled by a voice that has been guiding him for some time, and the gnome says if Talon does this, they'll both find out the truth of this mysterious being influencing them. Leon is studying books in the library. It's early in the morning. When Talon spots them, he wants to get them to leave because they'll be destroying the temple. Talon disguises himself as a dragonborn elder, but Leon is suspicious, and eventually Leon leaves anyway, so Talon and Gerbo continue on. Something wakes up the rest of the party. They don't know where Talon's gone, so they start looking for him. Talon and Gerbo get to the reliquary, which is filled with many strange artifacts. Gerbo summons a being which destroys a statue of the Archmage, while Gerbo activates a magical bomb. The summoned being grabs a glowing orb from the statue, the heart of the Archmage, and they flee the temple, meeting the party as they flee the temple and taking them with them. Meanwhile, Leon has been repeatedly bugged by that same anthropomorphic bunny from long before, and eventually it gets Leon to go with it down to the temple depths. Leon sees the bomb, grabs it, and runs out of the library. Meanwhile, Tor has threatened Gerbo, who's protected by the summoned being a celestial named Zarafel. Leon comes out with the device and teleports high into the air. The bomb goes off and Leon is incinerated, but then suddenly back to herself on the ground, perhaps saved by a god. The rest of the party takes a little bit of damage, but luckily the others at the monastery have been woken up and come running to help. But unfortunately, in all that commotion, Gerbo has escaped with the heart of the Archmage. The bunny turns into a tiefling woman who happens to be the Archmage. She shouldn't be doing this, interacting directly in the world, but she needs to get her heart back. Gives Leon a stone to help find it, the heart finder. Then she talks to Talon, who is very sorry for everything that he's done. He believed he gained his powers from another, but she tells him that no, his powers are from her. He also thought he had no choice, but she tells him that she's always had a choice, and it's not the Shadow Weaver who is contacting him, but someone else. And to help him figure that out, she gives him a tome. Torak tells Talon, I have failed, but you are failing and lost everything. Do not repeat my mistakes. At which point his stuffy glows a little bit. The party gather their things and go with the group from the monastery to find Gerbo. Leon has a touching moment, hugging everyone in the group before they go. They find a battle scene, but not sure what happened. But the heart finder seems to indicate that the heart has changed direction. So they track this group through the forest and come across a group of fiendish shadow creatures, one of which is carrying an unconscious Gerbo. In a daring quick attack, the party races in, grabs Gerbo and the heart, and a wizard teleports them away quickly, and they have saved the day. But they do notice that the group that they had ambushed, these shadow creatures, did have some who seemed potentially like leaders, including two beautiful pale humanoids. Back at the monastery, they returned the heart to the abbot. Relieved with things starting to calm down, the party sets about doing some research while they're at this expansive library. Mint wants to find a solution to Tor's memory problems. Jacob joins them. They find reference to Fae enchanting people and taking their memories, so perhaps they'll try to break an enchantment. Talon confesses to the abbot about the voice he was hearing and how it made him do small things at first, then more until he felt he couldn't go back after he was distantly involved in sort of the death of someone at the temple. That night, Leon tells them who she really is, Princess Anastriana of Del. I'm not going to say the full name, and some of why she left Del. The party will keep her secret, and after they go to bed, Leon is approached by the Archmage, who asks for the heart finder back and also agrees to answer a few questions. Leon confirms that the evil in the Shadow Forest is indeed the Shadow Weaver, but that he's acting through minions. He can't act directly, and by defeating his minions, they can defeat the corruption. The next day, Talon goes to his old instructor, Fenmira, played by another special guest, Greg McNeil, asking about the tome the Archmage gave him. She tells him to read it, and when he does, he becomes far more intelligent. Talon finds Tor and Mint looking for someone to break an enchantment and takes them to Fenmira. Fenmira looks into Tor's memories, sees the moment where Tor came by his mystical axe, says she will do the break enchantment spell, but as she does, realizes there are actually two enchantments upon him and only can break one. Even doing that, Tor is overwhelmed with memories and faints. When he comes to, he still can't remember, but it's clear now he's repressing the memories as they were not very pleasant, and he potentially could remember on his own at this point going forward. However, there's still the second break, the second enchantment upon him. Talon's old monk instructor helps Jacob learn to meditate, is able to contact Mirdu again. She tells him he needs to believe, also tells him that it was her who erased his memory. Leon helps Talon with some research, and together they determine that the god who was influencing Talon was probably the Whisperer. They tell the abbot, and that spawns a plan to perform a ritual and reveal the agents of the Whisperer at the temple. Those agents are called out, and after a quick fight, they are subdued, including one who was hogtied by Mint. Jacob Leon tells Jacob a bit more of his past, learned from the woman on the road from many days ago. Leon does some research on how to break the curse on the corrupted animals and people in the Shadow Forest and finds a ritual, but needs some more material components. They gather the components for the ritual and prepare to leave. Jacob meditates, and Mirdu again tells him she erased his memory because he'd witnessed his master's death, but she apparently erased everything, not just that moment, and now she can't undo it. She's not powerful enough since she's starting to fade away. She tells him to seek an expert in death, and he comes to learn that the queen of the Aealanine elves is such an expert and hopes to go see her. Gildy has had a bad dream about Alphonse being held captive and wants to leave now. They say goodbye to Morgan, and a wizard teleports them to her house. Once there, Gildy notices the corral usually used for sheep is full of horses. There are people here. The group comes up with a brilliant plan. However, the forest that was already there pretty much had the same plan. Things go to hell. There's a fight at Gildy's house that ends up in a knockdown, drag-out fight in the Gildy's root cellar, where Alphonse and others almost die, and Gildy's house is mostly destroyed in the process. They do manage to capture one of the party, who, when questioned, tells them that yes, they were after Morgan and the statue. They were working for Makai and the Syndicate. They let her go and head back to Silver Lake themselves, because they'll probably get there far quicker than this person, because the person is walking in there on horseback. Once back in the city, Talon puts word out he wants to talk with his contacts in the Syndicate. They arrange for the statue to be given back to Kaensa, and with the deal that Morgan is now off the hook and won't be pursued, and things will go back to normal. Talon, at this point, considers leaving his criminal past behind him. Feeling relieved, they go to watch and partake in some pit fighting. Most of them win and earn some money. Talon meets Kess, a halfling who seems potentially interested in him after they have fought each other. While they're there, they run into the guard twins, Melinda and Belinda, who agree to sign on with the characters when they go into the Shadow Forest, and so does Kess. Jacob spends more time with his sister and Yumi, getting to know them. They are not willing to go into the Shadow Forest. He also spends some time looking into the Aealanine elves, who are a secretive race, not much is known, although the queen is rumored to be immortal. They prepare for their trip to the Shadow Forest when that evening Leon spots someone following them, a street urchin, who says they were paid by some big Firbolg to keep an eye on Leon. Leon gets a little bit more info, gathers the party, and goes to hunt down this Firbolg. They find him in a tavern in a distant corner of the Lower Merchants District and ambush him, capturing him. But when he tells them that he was after Leon the princess, Leon tries to kill him. The others try to stop Leon, but they can't obviously let this man go, or he'll just bring others and go after Leon again. What can they do? Tor has a vision from his god as to what to do and marches the party out of the city into the desert after they quickly grab the guard twins and Kess. And it's well into the next day before Tor tells them that he must go to the first place he remembers and that this is a god quest, and nobody argues. But it's going to be 40 days or more, not 14, through the desert and to the place where Tor remembers. While traveling, Leon happens by chance across her sister, crossing the desert in the opposite direction. They reunite, and Leon assures her sister that she's fine and doesn't need to return home. So her sister will keep going on her way to Silver Lake to resupply, then return to Dell. Leon gives her sister her journal, so her family will know of her adventures. They fight some pesky cyclopses, and the Firbolg proves he can be trusted. Eventually, they come to an oasis in the desert and encounter a witch with her nomadic minions. She tempts them with tales of riches in the desert, but they are not swayed off their path, especially Tor. But when she tells them of a place where they can teleport directly to their destination, they are intrigued and will go with her into the desert, though they are still wary of her motives and don't really trust her. She leads them on for several days, one of which sees the party exploring an ancient domed room hidden beneath the sands and found by accident. There, Leon discovers a powerful and ancient spellbook of the wizard king Rashadar, but it nearly kills her when she tries to open it. Eventually, she dispels the magic upon it, but that was also the way to open it, and now she needs to research how to do that. They come to the cave where the teleportation circle is, and only then discover the witch and her companions are actually Alamia and Jackalwares, but they do not attack the party as long as the party is going into the cave, because there is a far more dangerous foe, a guardian spirit inside. And once encountered, it moves swiftly through the party, and whoever it touches is drained of life. But they defeat the foe and quickly search the area, finding several interesting items before activating the teleportation circle and going to a place far out into the wilds of Thurn, where Tor first starts to remember things. They find a portal to the Feywild, deposit the Firbolg there. They also find out that a tree nearby remembers Tor, that he was escorted out of the same portal by the Dark Lady long ago. Leon determines that the Dark Lady is Princess Luna of the Shadow Court, Maiden of the Moon, an archfey of very chaotic nature, and she is likely the one who removed Torok's memories. The group travels through the Badlands, avoiding danger and excitement. Well, no, they didn't avoid excitement. Anyway, Tor finally starts to remember a bit more, and some of his memories are actually fairly pleasant, traveling with other Dragonborn like himself. However, Leon is trying to figure out why strange wild magic seems to be following the party and thinks it might have something to do with Torok's god Stuffy. Leon and Talon approach Tor about this, and things do not go well. Tor just knows that this is a god, but doesn't know how he knows. But this prompts a memory of him actually holding a young Dragonborn in his arms, his son who has died, who is holding the Stuffy as well. And around him are rampaging bugs, and in the distance, a man with a bug face controlling the insects. Tor rages and lashes out in real life, narrowly missing Talon before he collapses unconscious. Tor isn't quite the same after this, sullen and on the edge of rage all the time. When Mint pushes him to tell her what's bothering him, he takes off and attacks a tree. Eventually, the party comes to a crossroads, and Mint tells the party the village she came from is nearby, and perhaps she can resupply there, but the others shouldn't go into town, just her and Tor. Leon remembers something from their time traveling through the wastelands, an armed camp of Mournish soldiers, which should be right about here, and when she questions Mint, Mint can't hide that, yes, she is indeed a Mournish soldier, but not what they think. She was part of a group who wants to bring down the Emperor. Everyone is a little shocked by this. So Mint, Tor, and Leon do end up going to the village, but they find some assassins heading that way as well, and after a brief skirmish, gather the rest of the party to rush into the village to help. A massive fight ensues where several people are killed. The assassins seem to be after a specific elf, who Leon recognizes as a childhood friend. Once the assassins are dealt with and the elf has been restored to life by the Life Stone, Leon reconnects with them. The party learns that this camp is the 17th Fusiliers, who are opposed to some supernatural power, perhaps an ancient and fallen god, behind the Emperor of the Empire. And this force has caused the war the Empire is currently pursuing, and the Fusiliers are trying to stop this entity and stop the war. Solansa, Leon's elf friend, tells them she was scouting and found the Empire was building massive airships for the war against El, and a fleet will be ready by next summer. They can't be allowed to complete them. The party tells everyone else of the threat of the Shadow Forest, which is a grave concern as well. The Fusiliers are gathering allies and have strange folk from all over at their camp. Jacob finds some artificers and reconnects with his love of crafting by working in their forge. And that evening, when everyone meets at Mint's house around a large fire, Jacob tells them he's feeling a little distant from his own quest at the moment, and seeing the artificers today brought back some things for him. The group in general is a little quiet and distant. There's sort of too much, perhaps, that has happened recently. And now the party must decide what they want to do with everything that they know and everything they have found out. Well, I only took about a half an hour to do that. Okay.
Well done.
My vote is to open the unlimited drinking skin.
Eat all around.
So as you wake up the next morning, what would you like to pursue? Mint has mentioned the previous night, perhaps in a bit of her deep in her cups, that there is this pleasant hot springs that's not too far from the camp. If you're seeking a bit of a relaxation encounter and want to go partake of that, it's a pleasant experience if you'd like.
Leon is going to talk to the person whose name I can't remember, but Leon obviously remembers. Give me a moment.
Your friend?
Yes.
Solansa.
Solansa. Right. Solansa. Yeah. And talk to her because there is the high level wizard of the Soroida tradition.
Yep.
So yeah.
You should like to join us.
No. goes to talk to Solansa and ask again, just inquire again, what impression are you getting? I got the sense that the Hand of the Queen has recognized me, as we discussed, but
In terms of the High Mage,
Yes.
or the party in general?
In particular, the High Mage, because I have reached a new ranking within the serrated tradition and have the opportunity to then be properly have the proper ritual to reach that ranking.
Ah, yes. Okay. I'm sure he would be willing to help out. If you would like me to ask, or if you want me to introduce you.
All right, yes. If you would introduce me, but introduce me as Leon Permitha of Rorotari.
Of course. So she takes you to him. He's staying at sort of the guest house in town. He is Habir Urusani, a tall, lean, sort of stern-looking elf, and introduces you as Leon, another member of the Sarada tradition. And he sort of, because you're not actually wearing your earrings, are you?
I am, but they're much more plain than the ones that I used
That's
to
what
wear.
it is. Yeah, he sort of looks at you and sort of comments on like that. It's like you seem to have fallen on some hard times, perhaps.
Yes.
And what is it you wish of me?
I have, as of this morning, achieved the rank of Sunanuri.
Ooh.
And was wondering if perhaps you would be willing to conduct the ceremony for me.
I would be honored to do so.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
He says he'll need sort of a little bit of time to prepare, but if you, return, unless you wanted to do it in a more public location. But
No, that is fine.
Yes.
No.
Yep. But yes, if you sort of leave and just sort of take a short walk around with Solansa and return a little while later, his room has been, he'll have some sort of incense that has been lit and sort of filling the room. And there's a bit of a sort of a magical fire that's going in one side of the room that's just sort of lending some flickering light and heat. And yes, he sort of walks you through the various steps of the ritual, and even takes the corresponding ring from his own ear to give to you.
Oh, wow. That's super cool. All right, so I go through and I cast Gust to show that I can cantrip, and then I cast Grease to show that I can cast first level spells, and then cast Misty Step to move slightly away to show that I can cast second level spells.
Yep.
And then, all right, that's the one.
You gotta cast Tidal Wave.
Well, it's Tidal Wave or Thunder Step, which are rather tricky. So I guess I'll cast the smallest possible Tidal Wave in between the two of us, so it doesn't actually hit anyone. And then I will cast Dimension Door to then get back to him.
Nice. All right.
To try and cast fourth level spell.
Yay. Yeah, and he is, sees what you can do and welcomes you to your rank, and hopes that someday you will join him as a high mage. And it's like, are you? You're from Dell, yes?
Yes, I am.
And he's like, well, if you're back in Dell, and you're in, sort of gives you a region or a city, is like it's often where I'm at. I have a tower there, although with the war efforts I may also be called out on various other missions as well.
Of course, I would love to visit you and talk about, and then I go off on some stuff that I've learned that is probably impressive. Which is what the amount of stuff that my character knows.
Yes.
They're probably like, oh, not impressive earrings, but impressive knowledge.
Yes, you have been around. Yes. What are other people up to that morning?
I think it's with all the craziness that's gone on. I realized I really haven't sat down and relaxed or meditated or anything. That hot spring sounds fantastic.
It really is.
Anyone for a group trip?
Yes. Tor is too.
Yep.
Alphonse enthusiastically agrees to go, and Gildy's like, "All right, let's go."
You'll notice Tor is not arguing, and his mood has changed a little bit since his near-death experience.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell he's wrestling with things.
Right. So yes, you. I don't know if you'll wait for Leon to get back, or if Leon had mentioned she just did not want to go to the hot springs.
Oh no, Leon would definitely be down for going to the hot
All
springs.
right. So yes, you wait
Yeah.
for Leon to get back from their morning excursion, and you head off to the hot springs. There's it's like a pleasant little valley. So the village is on sort of a mostly flat area next to some sort of rocky hills, and you travel up into the rocky hills. There's a little valley with like 3 or 4 of these hot springs, and even around them there's like a little bit of like actual like greener vegetation. Usually everything around is just sort of dust and rocks and that sort of thing. So there's some like nicer growth and bushes that are around here. And you can even see little, perhaps little fae or sprites or water spirits that sort of are, dancing through some of the waters, or even hopping from pond to pond. Yeah, it's a very pleasant place, and you can, yes, all sort of partake of a nice, soothing, warm. Unfortunately, the smell is a little meh, but yeah, it's a nice sort of soothing, warm, sort of relaxing bathing experience.
While we're doing that, then, and then particularly if there is a bad smell, then Leon asks, Jacob, would you mind creating that fragrance that you had created before to remove the unpleasant odor?
It's only going to mask sulfur.
It's fine.
Sure. Whip out a little contraption and get any oh yes, the childhood memory that you had, right? Was that the one that, what was it again?
Oh, for Torok?
Oh, it was Torax. Yeah, it was Torax smell. Sorry, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, manufacture the same smells before. Just to
Nice.
make it seem
All
a little nicer. And I'm going to go look for a quiet area to meditate for the first time in what feels like weeks. It's probably only a couple days.
Yeah, you go a little ways off from the party, sort of, it's still sort of in the valley and around these, but sort of behind a few of the bushes, and sort of sit down and find some peace. Yeah, I'm not going to make you roll for this one. You were able to sort of, there's a nice stillness around you. You're able to find some peace and sort of sink into the darkness that you usually find there. And from the darkness comes sort of the usual voice and appearance of Mirdu, saying, it seems like it's been a while. I don't know how long it's been. Time is strange in this place.
It has been a while. When I think on it, I'm trying to figure out if I'm intentionally forgetting to meditate. It seems the more I do to try to discover my memory, the further away I get from it. I wonder how much of that I'm doing unconsciously. And I'm a little worried. It's almost if there's something I'm scared of or nervous about or fearful. I feel...
You've remembered your master and the events around that, yes? The events around his death, sorry.
Sorry, out of character, I don't think I have I?
Yeah, you've had bits and pieces of sort of dream memories, but you haven't sort of fully put the picture together yet.
Yeah, and I mean, like, there's little pieces together I haven't fit together. I felt I was close, and perhaps some of the stopping is to prevent me from completing the puzzle.
She seems a bit hesitant. It's like, I've pretty much been with you your entire life. I could tell you, what happened, or if that's not something you want to go through right now, is there anything else I could share with you?
I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to know.
She sort of, even in this dark place, you sort of feel yourself as if you're sort of in a sitting position. She sort of takes a sitting position across from you. It says that it was late in the day. We were in southern Haram, not too far from your home, perhaps, in larger geographic distances anyway. And we had just come from a small village and given them some trinkets and some interesting potions to help them out. They'd been suffering from a few sicknesses, and Zanfal, your master, had been able to help them, and you'd been working with him as well, learning the craft. And as night fell, we heard horses approaching. Your master had a very large and colorful wagon in which he carried a lot of his potions and equipment, and unfortunately did not move slowly. He had a rather old mule that sort of pulled it along. And these horses caught up to us quickly, and your master was worried that these might be people who'd be a threat, so he'd sent you off to some nearby ruins to hide. I did witness most of what happened while you were sort of in the ruins. There was a party of mortar soldiers who caught up to your master and tried to forcibly take him with them, but he declined their offer, which led to a fight. He unfortunately was vastly outnumbered, and there was little he could do. And he died quickly, and they took his wagon and left. They didn't suspect you were there at all. I know you had heard everything, even if you hadn't seen it. I wasn't even sure if maybe you had seen it through some of the cracks in the stones that you were hiding behind. And when I returned to you, you seemed different than when I had known you before. You seemed lost and so sorrowing and almost a little broken. And I couldn't take it. I perhaps selfishly needed you to be the friend that I'd always had. And I decided in that moment that I would take this memory from you, that I would hide this from you, and thought maybe that you would just go on and never quite know what happened to your master. I don't know what I was thinking. I was a little distracted myself. But alas, the spell that I was working went a little awry. And not only did it take everything from you, it seemed to take everything from me as well. And from then on, I have been in this place, and you have been lacking your entire life, and I am so sorry for that.
It wasn't for you to decide.
I know. I'm sorry.
I do want my memories back, and I think we have to move on to this, so I just need to figure out how to get to that spot.
I understand. And if there's anything you do need from me, I am... there's not much I can do to help, but I can tell stories. I have information, bits and pieces.
You had mentioned you were slipping away. Is that still happening?
Yes, in bits and pieces. I'm weaker now than I was before, but I'm not sure I could say exactly how much. Again, time is strange in this place. I don't think it's a matter of hours or days, but eventually I will probably fade into the darkness.
Like my memories.
Yes.
I'm Jacob is definitely a little cold here. kind of some thinking of everything that's gone on. A little furious that someone chose for his memories to be gone. A little bit of trust issues there for sure.
Yeah. And you can see that she sort of understands and sees that as well, and she doesn't quite know what to say. She's sort of said the apologies and now is just sort of being there, but otherwise, yeah, quiet.
So I turn around and kind of give that uncomfortable silence for a good 10 seconds, and then without looking at her, is my best path still to seek out the Queen of the Elves?
If you wish for me to return your memories, I will need to regain what I was, and to do that, you would need to seek the Queen of the Elves. Even if I do not regain myself, she is powerful enough, she might be able to help you.
Okay.
And she sort of just one last time says, I'm so sorry, and fades back into the darkness.
Okay. I continue the meditation, and for the first time I meditate, continue the meditation, not so much to contact Mirdu, but more for my own kind of inner peace and relaxation and stuff, and kind of push that far away and just go into a good spot. I think more about beer and setting things on fire, and I hear this very like calm section.
Yeah, as you do that and sort of think about those things, you actually do find not new memories coming back to you, but some of the dreams that you've had in the past, some of those sort of bits of memories, you start to be able to recall those a little easier, and start to be able to sort of see that they are pieces of a larger puzzle that, maybe if there's enough time, you could piece back together.
Cool.
All right.
That's me meditating. What's everyone else doing at our party spa?
Yeah.
Keeping it light. It's all good.
Yeah, Leona's definitely just chilling, relaxing, kind of enjoying, her newfound level within the tradition. I imagine people probably will notice.
I was going to say, anybody with a passive perception of like 14 or higher has already noticed.
Well, and I figure it's probably even more than that, because she's got a fancy ring now.
Yeah.
Right? Her rings had been like pretty plain silver, but I think people probably would have noticed that when they first met her, she had, I believe, 3, then she had 4, and now she has 5 earrings. So, and again, they start kind of at the midpoint of the ears and they go up. So now she would have, I have to remember which side they start on.
Yeah, 3 and 2.
But she'd have 3 on one ear, 2 on the other.
Discover the reason why Torok had to come along is because Mint tends to get so relaxed she falls asleep, and she's so small she'll fall under the water. So Tor is basically there to make sure she doesn't accidentally drown.
He's your floaty.
Yeah, and when she gets prunish, he suggests she should get out, which she doesn't do.
Luckily, dragonborns don't really get pruny. Yeah. They can stay in a lot longer.
I can stay in as long as you.
Yeah, he has to be careful not to sneeze, because lightning and water don't go.
Please don't sneeze. Please don't sneeze. Please don't sneeze.
And you do notice, again, even as you're sort of relaxing in the water, there's these sort of, again, little sort of water elementals or sort of little spirits that sort of dance across the top of the, as there's sort of some bubbles coming up and sort of pop, and there's these, little things that sort of dance across. It's a very magical little place.
Yeah, sorry, then Leon would definitely be chatting with them in Primordial.
They do not have a lot of people conversing with them. They're relatively simple spirits, so their conversation is not particularly deep, but they are happy to talk to you.
Okay, yeah, and it's probably very clear, even though these are like these little beings and whatever, Leon is treating them with a lot of respect, and is being very clearly, even though you can't understand what she's saying, is being very courteous, is being probably probably at least as courteous or more courteous than she is with party members.
Yeah, so Gildy can understand what you're saying.
Yep.
So I don't think that she's contributing to the conversation, or like Gildy and Leon sometimes talk in primordial, but I think she just kind of like is cocking an eyebrow and like, all right, yeah, in reaction to Leon being so polite, so much more polite than she normally is.
Well, yeah, these are spirits.
But Alphonse definitely would have noticed the earring, and so Alphonse also is observant, and his passive perception is super high. So I'm gonna ask Rob, would Alphonse have noticed that the earring is from the other elf?
Yes.
Okay, so Alphonse notices, and so probably like as soon as he saw you with the new earring, he's like, oh, that other elf gave you his earring? But why? I mean, it looks lovely. It doesn't match the rest of them, though.
So yeah, I guess I should probably describe them a little bit. So the other ones are plain silver, but this one has a sapphire.
Yeah.
So it definitely stands out, and it will be the highest on the left ear. So there's basically 2 silver on each ear, but then topped on the left, there's I imagine it would be like silver with a sapphire. Kind of thing. Silver and blue goes nicely together.
Probably platinum with sapphire.
Well, okay. So, well, yes. So, undoubtedly, you've noticed that I have my earrings, and as we become more experienced, then I gain new earrings. And so that is the Soreda tradition, which is a prestigious wizarding tradition from Dell. It, of course, is passed down via lineage of masters. It stretches back to Soreda Kuranisa, the first wizard in Dell to achieve the rank of Atosani, which actually the master wizard in the camp is also an Atosani. And members of this tradition wear earrings as an additional adornment to denote rank. And as I have not had the opportunity to have a proper ritual as we have been out in the world, I decided to take the opportunity to have a master provide the ritual to recognize my achieving the rank of Sunanari. And he was kind enough to give me his earring.
Alphonse says, wow, that's very generous. Then he like reflects on his experience as a druid. He's like, no one gives me any earrings when I get better at my spells.
Well, it's part of the Soreda tradition. As I say, it's a very prestigious tradition from Dell. There are actually also sashes to wear. However, as I felt that it may not be safe being so close to the Moorish Empire, being obviously from Dell, I have not been wearing the proper sash, and that is why I traded in my lovely earrings for these simple silver bands.
Alphonse says, well, they look lovely. As a druid, I don't get any adornments. I can turn into a bear, though. And then
true.
Gildy reaches out. She's like, don't do that right now. Don't turn into a bear in the spring.
No, but you could
He's
turn
like,
into
"Oh."
you could turn into an otter.
Can you?
So he hears this and he looks at Gildy like, can I? And she kind of rolls her eyes and she says, okay. So he turns into an otter.
Oh my goodness!
Does Gildy have to put her finger out so Alphonse can like hook finger and not float away?
Right? You're all welcome for this mental image of Alphonse the otter.
This is
Killing the
amazing.
osprey.
Even Tor's trying to be grumpy is just going, that's actually cute.
Yeah.
So cute.
So we have noticed. So I apologize the name. So that elder who gave you the earring. Would we have noticed how many earrings they had?
They had 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jeebus.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're halfway there.
Yay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a pleasant day. Kess and the guard twins eventually join you. And they come out as well and sort of have a soak. Like, we heard about these; they sounded really nice. We come and have a bit of a soak as well. Oh, yeah.
I guess technically Leon could make herself a bathing suit. Because it can only be 3 feet on a side, and that wouldn't be 3 feet on a side. So technically, she could make herself a glowing bathing suit.
If you'd like.
Oh yeah, no, definitely would definitely conjure herself a glowing bathing suit. That'd be awesome.
It's a little known misty step of privacy. It's just a little bit.
And at some point when Jacob kind of comes back, or maybe after we're done in the hot spring or whatever, Leon is definitely going to approach Jacob kind of secretly. It's not nearly as serious a thing as you're thinking, Rob. It's not serious. It's not serious at all. No.
So that's a good question. Would Jacob come back potentially before the others leave?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So yes, either at the hot springs you could go off again, or on the way back you can just sort of wander a little ways from the party.
Well, and basically looking for an opportunity to talk to Jacob away from the amazing ears of
Alphonse?
Alphonse. Seriously, normally in every other game I remember everything. In this game I'm like, yeah, Alphonse.
As I do come back, I have my alchemy jug kind of slung over my shoulder, and I've been using it today for beer, for sure.
So do Alphonse and Gildy stay in the hot spring as long, like a really long time, or do they leave earlier than other people, or
Probably about lunchtime soon.
They probably would have just left whenever other people were leaving. Alphonse, as an otter, would probably want to hang out in the hot springs longer. But then as people were like getting ready to go, Gildy would like basically grab him.
Yeah, he got caught up with, floating around on his back, and one of the little water spirits was sort of dancing across him. He was playing with it.
He can also only stay as an otter for 3 hours. But
only. Nice.
Yeah. So probably it's about lunchtime.
Leon's bathing suit only lasts for 1 hour, so
Yeah, but then she just conjures herself another one.
in that moment.
Oh dear.
Just sink down lower in the water. You're fine. Yeah, so probably about lunchtime, you're heading back.
Cool. Then yeah, I'll definitely kind of motion Jacob a little bit aside and say, you are an excellent craftsman, yes?
I'd like to think so.
All right. So I was telling Alphonse all about the Sereda tradition in which I gain my earrings, and he seemed rather sad that as he progresses, he does not gain any kind of items or anything like that. And while we were in the Feywild, I had collected, and she pulls from her bag of holding and like opens up a book and is like, and I had collected this various flora from the Feywild, and I was thinking this might be an excellent use for those. So if you could perhaps craft something, maybe a bracelet, or even a head wreath or something like that, that we could present to Alphonse in recognition of his ability as a druid, I feel like he would really appreciate that.
Sure. That's nice. Now, my crafting does really kind of is more technical in nature. So, do you think a druid would appreciate that.
Well, but I do not have the skill to weave them together. So even if you wove them together into some kind of a bracelet, but I think it would be important not to include any metal. I believe that druids are not.
How about a little bit of metal? Like I could use some nuts and bolts to attach the twigs together.
I'm not certain that Alphonse would appreciate that. Might you be able to use wood?
I could try. It's not my specialty, but I mean, how hard could it be?
Well, and I expect that
I'm looking forward to this proficiency check of crafting twigs and berries.
I expect that you will be better at it than I would be, and that in this case, it will be the thought and the effort that counts.
So what are we? Okay. So you said necklace or bracelet?
Yes, bracelet, or perhaps like a head garland or something like that. Perhaps a bracelet would be simpler. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what inspiration strikes.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate.
How many more glasses of inspiration will you have first?
I appreciate your efforts.
Yeah, that's an interesting item.
Yeah, and I really don't have any skill to be able to do that, or any spell. Like I have mending, but that's about all I got. So I figured out of any of us, it would be Jacob.
Trying to think which of my tools makes the most sense.
I'm trying to recall. I think Mint has a little bit of tinkering ability as well, but not as much as Jacob.
Yeah, you could probably use your tinker proficiency. There might end up being like what you figure out is sort of how you would end up doing this is like you would do it as if you were working with sort of very fine strands of metal, and you'd be able to sort of do that. There's probably like a little bit of a clasp or something that you end up working in there. It's not like druids can't wear any metal at all, but yeah. So if you would like to give me a Tinker's Tools check.
What is that exactly? Because that's a...
so you're proficient with Tinker's Tools,
yep.
So we will add your proficiency bonus to, in this case, probably either intelligence or dexterity. Depends if you want to sort of focus on more on how you're thinking about it, or the physical act of putting it together.
I'll do intelligence, and then I believe on 5th level I got tool expertise, so I get my proficiency bonus doubled.
Oh, nice.
Oh, good. Oh, no! Yes! I do have something that can help with this.
Oh, okay.
I have sovereign glue.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It creates a bond that can only be broken by universal solvent, oil of etherealness, or a wish spell.
In addition, I'm going to use a new ability that I picked up at 7th level, called the Flash of Genius. When me or another creature I can see within 30 feet of me makes an ability check or a saving throw, you can use your reaction to add +4 to the roll. Up
nice.
4 times per day. So I'm going to Flash of Genius this bracelet. So that's a lot of bonuses.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna help out and like offer little dabs of glue wherever he's like, okay, these need to be bound together, just like bloop, just like bound together forever.
So Leon helping, does that give me an additional bonus or a penalty?
That would give you advantage.
Oh, okay. Sweet, because I have the glue, because I have the magic glue.
Yeah, and you're helping on a skill check.
All right.
I'm just gonna roll it twice because I don't have my advantage.
That's fine, yeah.
1, 2.
Oh my!
I was waiting for that one.
Wow. But yeah, the fact that your lowest roll is 15. But yeah, you rolled a 27. That's incredibly good. You have crafted a beautifully sort of stunning bracelet. You didn't even need the metal with the glue and sort of some of the end bits of things. You were able to sort of, hook together a clasp. Yeah, it is... you never thought you'd really work with sort of non-metal items before, and now you're like, yeah, I can work with anything. Yeah, and it's a beautiful bracelet.
I like it.
Yeah.
There we go.
Sweet.
So I pass it back to Leon. I hope this will be sufficient.
Oh, I think this is more than sufficient. This is amazing. It was wonderful working with you like this.
And look,
the outcome is so beautiful.
Ooh, and watch, and I grab it back and I kind of hold it up to the sun as I'm assuming out. When you turn it just right, it sparkles.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of the sparkling.
It does.
I think would you one last thing.
Mm.
I think it would be even better if we presented this to Alphonse, and if perhaps you could use your hat to, when we present it, have a burst of doves. That would be.
I will say the C word, yes. Can't say it right now, or else we'll have a bunch of doves.
Thank you. All right, so then, like late afternoon, we go and we find Alphonse and kind of gather everybody together, and then Leon says, everyone, and whoever in town wants to kind of see, like doing it, not necessarily gathering other people, but like speaking loudly, and if other people are like, oh, what's going on over there?
Yep.
I'm more than happy to have them come, and has the item, but it's like wrapped up in cloth that she's conjured, so it's like slightly glowing, so clearly there's something, and says, Alphonse, if you will come and stand here. So this is in recognition of Alphonse, our druid, who over the time that we have been with him has learned many things, gathered new abilities, recognition of your ability to transform not only into an otter, but into a bear, but into other wildlife, your ability to cast spells, and overall being one of the most wonderful people that we know. And then like carefully unfolds and says, here's a presentation in recognition to acknowledge your skillfulness and ability.
I quietly say caca as 5 doves.
Okay, so when you first gathered everyone together, Alphonse was not expecting this. He was both Alphonse and Gildy were kind of expecting, like, oh, Leon has something important to tell us. Oh, like there's something that we need to know about, that we need to do. So they're expecting like serious, like someone we need to go fight, or a new important thing we need to go do. But then when you like bring Alphonse forward and start talking about him, he's like, especially as other people are seeing, you can see kind of like he's like a little nervous. He's kind of like shrinking into himself a little bit, and he's like like really bashful. And Gildy is just like glowing. She's like, "Oh, my Alphonse, I'm so proud of you." Meanwhile, he's like, "Hey," and then when you present him the bracelet, at first it's like he doesn't realize that it's for him. He's just kind of like looking at it, and he's stunned by how beautiful he is, and he takes it, and his face is acting weird, and you're like, do you not like it? Because he's just kind of holding it and like grimacing almost, and then it's because he starts crying, and he says this is so beautiful. And he's just so taken by it, and he's trying to put it on. He's fumbling because he doesn't really know exactly. And then Gildy comes up, and Gildy helps him put on the bracelet. And he's like holding it up, and he's still like sobbing because he's so happy. He's like, "It's sparkle."
And as he holds it up and it's sparkling, a little sort of spirit of the earth sort of seems to appear next to it, and sort of does a little dance on top of it as well.
So Alphonse, still sobbing, throws his arms, well, he's a halfling, so it's like around your waist, around Leon's. It's like, "Thank you, this is so nice."
Oh, you are most welcome. You you were expressing your interest in my earrings and in the serrated tradition, and I had a conversation with Jacob, and he said he could surely make something that would be fantastic, and it's one of the most amazing things that I have ever seen. So this is thanks to the master works of Jacob the.
No, this
then
was all your
Alphonse-
idea.
My
Alphonse
idea,
then turns
but
to
your
Jacob and he's
execution.
like, "You made this?" And then he also hugs you.
Aw. I'll bring it in.
I merely applied the glue and held what you told me to hold. The rest was you.
And that night, this is perhaps why you were sort of in the village or sort of on your way in town. There's a bit of a celebration being held to sort of commemorate the small victory they had the previous day. And in the sort of the great hall, a lot of the village is gathered. There's a big set of trestle tables that have been set up along one end. They don't really have a bar, but there's a lot of sort of mead and ale that have been brought out, sort of many mugs and things. There's various different acts and bards that are playing on stage, and you can sort of enjoy the evening, either amongst yourselves or amongst others from the village. As yes, these acts, and the one that you notice in particular is one of the people that was in the room getting the sort of brief on sort of all current events, a tabaxi bard that plays some beautiful music on a not a lyre, it's a viol. That's what it is. Thank you. Yeah, and is everybody seems a little bit entranced by sort of some of the performance aspect of this kind of cat person and sort of the unique vocalizations that they are able to make as well. So yes.
So do people, are we like sitting at a table with the...
There's no tables. So the tables have sort of been cleared away. Some people are doing some sort of dancing spontaneously, but it's mostly just people standing and milling about. Imagine like high school dance. And sort of, again, there's sort of a bar along one side, but it's mostly just sort of kegs of ale and sort of cups and that sort of thing that people
Okay, there's not
access.
food?
There probably is a little bit of food as well, but it's just sort of small bits of things and, small cuts of meats and bits of cheeses or some bits of bread, that sort of thing as well.
All right. Well, I think depending on how we do things, and it's so like, does the is it like a free event, or do you have to pay for the stuff?
Nope.
Okay, cool. Then, sorry, I'm just trying to figure out how Leon would handle all this stuff. So undoubtedly, then she would basically cast Unseen Servant as a ritual, and then basically nobody would ever have to go and get drinks and things. She would just send the Unseen Servant to go and collect drinks, and they would just come floating back to us.
Very nice.
And stuff like that. And she would undoubtedly make a little blanket, which would be only 3x3, but a few people could fit on there.
Yeah. Anything else people would like to do that evening? Again, either at the party or afterwards.
At some point, after the ceremony for Alphonse, people with a higher perception might have noticed Talon, who had this really nice stick, kind of just go off from the edge and just kind of toss the stick away, kind of dejectedly, like.
I think I'm going to say that Alphonse did not notice that. Despite having very high perception, he was very distracted by the event.
Oh my goodness. That's adorable. I feel kind of bad now. Yeah, what kind of passive perception would people need to notice that kind of thing? I have a 14.
I have a 12.
Or I have a 15.
15. I'll say that it's not sort of a super big in-game thing, whatever, that if you would like to have noticed that, you can have noticed that.
I think Mint
Okay.
would have noticed, but wouldn't have understood the significance of it.
Hmm.
Because I
And-
think that's just kind of like, oh, he's getting rid of a stick. Okay.
I think
And-
it's. Sorry, go ahead, Jonathan.
I was going to say, if anyone's noticing, Tor's off on his own woodworking, and it's not something you've seen before.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's amusing for Leon to have noticed and just been like, oh, he's throwing away a stick. Okay. And then a few hours later is like, I know exactly what that means. Oh no. So like hours later,
Poor
comes over to-
Talon.
it's just like, oh, I am so sorry. I'm sure that Alphonse would have appreciated your gift just as much. And perhaps next time I will include you if I come up with any ideas to provide anyone in the group with a gift.
It's
Yeah, and I think Gildy would have noticed as well, and just like at one point just said to Talon, like, you could give him literally anything and he will be delighted.
like, it's okay. The bracelet.
Okay. if you're sure.
It's okay.
Alan was secretly hoping to play fetch with Alphonse.
That'd be-
Like I've
You
always
would
wanted
love
to play
that
fetch
too.
with a bear.
Okay. And as sort of the evening comes to a close, you're approached by a couple of the sort of the leaders of this community. So Bimini, the half elf, and Lieutenant Mistweaver, who's an elf. Sorry, not half elf, halfling and elf. Who approached Min specifically, but sort of address the group and say, we've had a day to relax and recuperate. Tomorrow, I think we need to start figuring out what we are going to be doing with all of our various different plans. And if you and your group would like to join us, we will be having a planning session tomorrow morning.
I will be there. I can't guarantee that all of my group will be.
That is fair. And they sort of, they leave the party at that point in time.
No one's obligated to go.
uh,
You don't have to go.
That seems like a decent spot to have a bit of a break. So we will take a short break and be back in a moment. And we can see what happens the next day. All right, we'll be back shortly. See you then. Hello, and welcome back to the next level. I will say it right this time. So we left off as sort of the evening was ending, the party was quieting down, there's some plans for the next day. Any final things you wanted to do that evening?
Yeah, so I think Jacob, kind of thinking back to the day before, one of the offers that Talon gave him, we'll head over to Talon and listen. Last night I was in a kind of an odd headspace, but the springs that we went to today made me feel like a new man. It was one.
They were very relaxed.
You had asked me about the Elenine. How do you pronounce it? Ellen.
Alanine.
That queen. Queen E. Do you know of this? Like that was such a minor detail of mine. You seem to have grasped onto it. Do you know anything about this person? I'm reconsidering my position on seeking her out.
Well, and Tom would kind of look around just to see, and assume it's just sort of the two of us, and just I was actually born in the Alanian forest. I was brought to the monastery when I was, a young child, but I feel it might be time for me to return. It was the right decision, I understand, for my mother to bring me to the monastery or to send me to the monastery, but it has been a number of years, and I would be curious to return and see my mother again.
If we do go, what are the chances you're going to steal something that's going to blow up this time? Our record of going to places you've been at is not stellar at the moment.
Talon will actually chuckle at that. It was good. He's like, I don't believe that will ever happen again. I surely hope not.
I'm just ribbing with you, Talon.
Yes.
Interesting. Seems we both have a connection there. I do feel I still feel a little responsible for the Shadow Forest talk, though. That still weighs on my mind.
Yes, I feel the Shadow Forest might be, what we should do, first. But when the time comes and you feel you'd like to journey to the forest, I would like to accompany you.
Having a guide would make the journey all the better.
Yes. So I only remembered from being a small child, but I remember little.
Do you remember would you know how to contact your mother?
I would. Sure, if we got there, I would find a way.
Excellent.
Yeah. So obviously outside of the forest, there are magical ways to send messages to people. But yeah, once you're in the forest, you would know how to get past the usual barriers that keep people out.
I hear the Queen knows a lot about death. Do you know anything about that?
I was just young when I left. I did not know much, but the Queen definitely had a strong presence from what I remember. But I don't know a whole lot more than that.
Probably from the one time you saw the Queen. And this would have been how many years ago?
15?
15 years ago?
Ballpark, yeah.
Yeah, she would have been a child.
Oh. Would she have been queen, though?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, now I'm just curious, Talon. This is like a place that is halfway across the world, and somehow you end up at that weird temple of the Archmage place.
My father was not of the forest. My being was not comfortable for my mother, and so it was decided that it was best for me to go and learn to become my own person outside of the forest. That is how I ended up at the monastery. But perhaps now being, grown, perhaps I might be accepted, or at least I would be curious to return. Yes, I have not seen my mother in, probably 15, 20 years.
Interesting. Well, I think we have a road trip planned for the future.
I like that.
Okay. Unless there are other conversations that you'd like to have that evening?
I think Leon would probably, just making sure I'm not muted. I think that Leon would definitely gather people together to start making the plan for how we deal with the Shadow Forest.
Yeah. You're all a little loose and giddy and, slightly drunk, potentially, depending on how much you had at the sort of celebrations. But definitely sort of on your way back to Mint's place, you could sort of be having some discussions sort of loosely around what you'd like to be doing.
Well, I think, if people are inebriated, then Leon is not going to be not going to be like, all right, serious planning session while you're drunk. No.
I want to listen in to the meeting in the morning, so that, oh, excuse me a moment. And it's just so that we can see what kind of resources they can spare for us. I want to include them in whatever plans we make when going to the Shadow Forest so that but yeah, provisions is top of my mind when I'm talking to them. I'm also wondering if there's anyone who maybe isn't going to be in or is useful for this airship thing that they're working on, if maybe they want to spare some men for us in the forest. Like, I know I talked to Big Game about us being totally capable, but the more the merrier, right? Yeah.
And I guess to that point, does anybody want to go with Mint?
I noticed the artificers are here. I would probably tag along if I'm assuming the artificers are going to be included in it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. They're yeah. Yeah, I'm same wavelength as you. Yeah.
And Tor would attend, but only if Mint wants him there.
Yeah. I want you there. You big lug.
It probably wouldn't be the first time he attended.
No.
Gildy has no interest, and if asked, she would just kind of like cross her arms, just say no. Thank you.
You notice Mint has never asked any of you directly, and has yeah. Mint has said like no obligation, none.
Is this meeting happening indoors or outdoors, or like where is it happening?
Indoors. It would be happening in the same room that you were sort of in last time that you had
Where the fight was?
No, where you
one of the
had
fights.
The meeting after the fact. So, yeah.
Okay, and is that that's a large space?
Yeah, decently large. Think of like a conference room size space.
Okay, so it's just a conference room.
Yeah.
How many people are meeting in there?
A lot. But still, this is probably the same amount as last time. So it's some of the delegation from the elves and other delegations as well, and the sort of leaders from this community. And
are there any open windows or anywhere? Basically, Leon would not attend, but I have Ranu now.
Oh.
but would see if she could place Ranu in a place where she could kind of listen in on the conversations.
I'm sure
Ranu can perch on his shoulder.
Yes.
It's fine.
Okay.
Ranu just can't vote, can't lift a wing for anything.
I mean, I wasn't necessarily planning on having Ranu be that obtrusive, and more would just be kind of. So I was hoping it was going to be in a larger open space with like some rafters and things that
no, could just not quite.
Perch up in the rafters. All right. Well, sure. I guess then. So who all is going to the meeting?
Currently, it's Jacob, Mint, and Torok.
Yeah, Talon's not.
Okay. Then would ask if Torok, would you mind if Ranu accompanied you on your shoulder?
I get it, I'm short.
Torok's like, that's fine.
Okay, then Ranu, boop, perches on your shoulder. And
He doesn't have to stay there all night, does he? Let the poor Dragonborn get some sleep.
This is in the morning for the meeting.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah. No, this is just for the meeting. Leon is not going to the meeting, but Leon is sending Ranu as a proxy to be aware of everything going on, but not be present.
Sounds good. Okay.
Tor may refer to it as Little Leon. Just
Little Leon.
Their name is Ranu. They have a
Ranu
name.
might get mad if you don't refer to Ranu by his given name. I mean, he's a spirit. He just happens to look like an owl.
Yeah. And Ranu is his actual name. That is not something that Leon has named it. That is the spirit's actual name.
Tor would not disrespect the Ranu. Tor would just mock Leon a little bit.
What have I done to deserve such mockery?
You're amazing. So it's just teasing.
I feel
It's
that's
not mockery.
That's more mockery.
Oh.
So yes, the next morning rolls around, and the group, the contingent, goes to the meeting. Bimini rehashes a lot of sort of what he's told you before about sort of the main concerns before them. So the sort of the three areas are, number one is the airships and doing something about them. Number two is continued recruitment to build up these forces so that they can hopefully have a significant force to bring against the Empire when they need to. And number three is sort of he'll let you speak a little bit more about this shadow forest and sort of, you know, hands things over to you for a moment. Like, tell us a little bit more about this threat that you have found and you know, how it impacts us or the Empire or sort of any of these surrounding areas.
So when I was first in Silver Lake, we were approached, me and Torok, by Gildy the half-elf to go and join on a mission into the Shadow Forest where merchants had gone missing. So that's how we met. Talon as well had also been recruited by, and refresh my memory, you two, who else joined us apart from Leon and Jacob?
That was it.
That was it. That was the group of us. And when we were in there, we ended up finding out a bit more about what has been happening in the forest. So there are creatures that are corrupted by the shadows that were attacking us. Some people who had skirmished shallowly into the woods had come across these and had been making reports about such creatures. But we saw some that had been even more fully converted when we were inside, including a rider on a horse that was guarding very closely to a shadow dome, an entire dome made of shadows so deep that it was opaque. You could not see beyond it. We ended up going through the barrier and we found inside an entire operation of conversion. There were people who were mesmerized into gathering this corrupting energy, and the energy was being used to convert creatures. So we ended up kind of dispelling it a bit, but we aren't satisfied that that is all. We ended up doing some further research and we've discovered that there is other such like, and so we want to go deeper in and we want to try and save people if we can. My concern is that when we go deeper in, we're going to find that there is further corruption, as we may find a sphere or dome rather that may have been even established for a longer time and therefore has produced more. If we encounter the same level of corruption that we had before, I'm certain that we can handle it. But if it turns out to be more aged, then we may find ourselves in a bit of trouble. So I was wondering if there are any people today who may want to join us on that part of the adventure. This corruption is spreading across land in other forests based on the research that we have done. And
I'm going to correct you on that.
oh, I'm wrong. Sorry.
It is spreading throughout the Shadow Forest. It has
Through the
not
Shadow
hit other forests yet.
It hasn't hit other forests yet.
Yeah.
My bad.
Do you mention that from your research, this is sort of because of the Shadow Weaver?
I haven't been asked yet what we think the cause is, so I don't think I'm going to yet.
Okay. So I guess, yeah, then Bimini will sort of question you a little bit just around what do you think is causing this? Who do you think is behind it? Is there sort of a leadership structure that you plan to dismantle? Yeah, what do you think their goal is?
As far as the type of corruption, what we've seen the effect of it is, it does seem to be very controlling. It could be potentially a foothold for a type of energy and therefore empire of its own. We suspect we may know what is behind it. We aren't 100% sure, so I don't like jumping to conclusions. But
You're
that's
fairly certain, assuming Leon has shared knowledge with you.
yeah,
Oh yeah, I
yeah.
definitely have. And when Minuzet says that, Ranu shrieks.
And while I do not like jumping to conclusions, what it is pointing to is the Shadow Weaver.
Oh.
Yes. So again, if there is potentially anybody who may not be of as great a help in terms of this time recruitment and or the airships, if such an adventurer might be interested in joining us on our mission to the Shadow Forest, we of course are looking for volunteers. The more of us, obviously, the more resources we would need on the travel, but also the more likely we would all arrive back in one piece.
Okay. I will need to take this away and consider what resources we do have and what we can lend you. We will do everything we can to stop this spread from what you're mentioning. Going up against the minions of a god is probably going to be a challenge, yeah, if their intent is to spread shadows over this entire plane, that is definitely something we would want to stop, and would definitely take some of our effort to do so, even though that was not on our radar to begin with at all. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
They talk a little bit in this meeting about some of their other recruitment efforts and sort of how they've been reaching out deeper into Thurn and to sort of the various different sort of tribes and peoples that are there. And their hope is to be able to bring their sort of full fighting force, ideally up to a size of about 500 men. Perhaps if they can, up to 1,000. Currently, they've got about almost 200-ish, so about 120 of their original members plus 50 new recruits that have sort of been joined in the last little while. And then there's some, sort of some of the others around the table that are representing different communities that are sort of potentially interested in helping out as well. So. They talk about, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just remembering there were a few recruits that Mint had sent their way as well.
Yes, and you actually have probably seen them around. I can't remember the names offhand, but I can bring them up.
Yep. All right. But I think there were some of the people that we had rescued from the Shadow Forest.
Yep.
Yeah.
They talk a little bit about the airships, and Solensa does seem to be sort of taking the lead on that. The small group of elves from Dell that are here, they will be sort of leaving a smaller group, some contingent to sort of help her with whatever she needs. They are planning to return to Dell to otherwise drum up more effort and sort of help these Fusiliers as they can. Again, they have the joint mission to create the mobile artillery platforms of cannons hidden in portable holes, which sort of is a joint effort between the two of them. But yeah, they're going to leave a little bit of a force behind to go with her. And in terms of others, probably it's going to be a relatively small group that goes initially, just to not necessarily confirm this, but hopefully go in and sort of do some sabotage and see what they can sort of take care of. And they don't have a lot of that type of people who'd be sort of good at that sort of sneaky type of work. These are most sort of straightforward soldiers, but they have sort of some that they can lend to that. So it's going to be not a lot of their effort is going towards that at the moment. The bulk of their effort is going towards, again, sort of building up their main force for whatever the next big offensive is. But they can definitely send some with you to the Shadow Forest as well.
Is there any mention of seeking out Princess Rationala that I had told them was in the area, in theory?
She is not really in the area. She, again, is like 20 odd days away, 30 odd days away. But since she will probably be coming back across the desert into the hills, if any of their sort of long range scouts do encounter her, then they might try and sort of recruit her as well.
Cool.
Yep. Yeah. The artificers do give a bit of an update, and just in terms of sort of how their work has been going and what they've been working on. You can see that they're a little keen to help out as much as they can with sort of freeing Jendisa from the sort of airships and sort of the work that's going on there, and they don't like that, but they're not really necessarily sort of frontline fighters to go and do that. They're crafters and want to sort of help how they can. So there's even sort of suggested efforts of crafting some specific weapons or items for those who are going in that direction as well, so that they can help that out. And yeah, it's probably going to be a fairly unique group going up into Jindisa to look at the airships, at least initially. And yeah, I think that's just about it for what they sort of the sort of general discussion and things they're going over. Again, afterwards, sort of as the people depart, Bimini sort of keeps Mint behind a little bit, and it's like, we already have enough trouble going up against one proto-god. We don't even really know what he is. Whatever you need, we can provide you. I will actually have a discussion with our elven friends. I know one among them is able to move people around relatively quickly. Perhaps they can get you there with some haste, unless there's someplace else you need to go first.
No, we already got very largely sidetracked, so to get there faster would be of great help.
Yep.
3 of the warriors who are with us, we are paying them extra for what the side trip kind of entailed. So
about that, there was 2 guards and a halfling that came with you. Yes.
Yes. So the 2 guards, they I believe traveled along with Leon previously, so they know each other. I met Cass back in Silver Lake during kind of a fighting competition, and she proved herself to be amazingly well. And we ran into Melinda and Belinda there again, so we all just kind of met up.
They've actually approached me about potentially staying here.
Oh, okay. So they want to help with the war effort rather than join us in the Shadow Forest?
You may want to have a conversation with them.
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you for the heads up on that.
But yes, in terms of how we can help you, unfortunately, we cannot spare any magical resources. We do not have a whole lot in that area to begin with.
We did use a lot of our potions.
No, I'm sorry, talking about people resources.
Oh, okay.
However, we could probably send. Well, we have maybe 5 of our shock troops, and would you want 10 or 20 of our regular men?
If they can be spared, I will also talk to our group as well and see what number we're comfortable taking with us too.
And he actually sort of corrects himself. I was like, actually, we may be limited by how many the elf can transport.
That is another concern, yeah.
All right, I will talk to him and see what we can do, and you talk to your friends as well and see what you're willing to take.
Okay. Thank you again.
Yeah. And oddly enough, as you're sort of on your way out from there, you actually encounter Kess and the guard twins that seem to be sort of loitering about, perhaps waiting for you. And it's like, can we talk?
Yes, I think we should. I heard a rumor.
Yeah, and it's sort of Kess who's doing most of the talking. He's like, yeah, Look, I know you've hired us to go on a quest, and I think it's a really important thing. I'm sort of think that what they're doing here is really important as well. I may want to stay here if you're willing to release me from the quest we've done so far. I can maybe return some of the funds if you need that. But they're doing some interesting work here, and it's been a while since I've felt like I had a purpose that meant something. And I can see, obviously, you know these people, and sort of you know what they're working towards. And I think I at least would like to stay and help them if I can.
I totally understand that. It sounds like I may actually get some other help to take with me into the forest. So coming into the basically my hometown and things kind of changing up and switching a little bit, I think I'm just going to roll with it.
Okay.
So yes, if you would rather help out with the war effort here, if it's bringing meaning to you, we can discuss payment regarding, because we did kind of drag you as well on a mission in the middle that was unexpected.
Yeah.
So yes, we'll figure that out. But
And as for the guard twins, they're like, well, yeah. I mean, we kind of want to go with you, but we also want to kind of help these people. We're really good at, we know these lands relatively well, especially once we get back up to Katu. And we thought maybe if you're sort of going the long way back, we could escort you back and all, and maybe sort of return here and give them some information from the world. But we're still trying to figure out exactly what we want to do, but we want to sort of help out here however we can. Yeah, again, we could go with you, but maybe we'll see how things work out.
Yeah, I think things are a little up in the air right now anyway. So yes, I'm just going to reconvene with the rest of the group that originally accompanied me into the Shadow Forest, and we will discuss how things seem to be shaping up.
Okay.
All right. But we should meet again before the day is over.
That's good. All right. Yeah, so you go back and regroup with the others, fill them in.
So, Leon, I'm assuming I don't have to fill you in. Ranu kind of heard all that.
Yes.
Okay. So for
And-
everybody else, we should gather up, though.
I mean, I think it would probably make sense that Leon would recount to everyone everything, since Mint took a while to get back. Leon probably would have filled everybody in by the time that Mint got back.
Well, Torok and Talon were there too, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. The three of you can take over now. I'm spent.
Yeah. So, how does that conversation go? Assuming the rest of the group has been informed about sort of what's happening and potentially you could have a little bit of help and that.
So yeah, we might get like, I don't know, 5 shock troops and maybe 10 to 20 others, depending how many can be transported by magic. And Kess and Belinda kind of don't want to join us in the Shadow Forest anymore.
Oh, Tess is not joining us?
Kess wants to help with the war effort. She wants to volunteer. At the same time, though, if she ends up becoming one of the troops that they end up sending with us, that's ironic. So, I don't know.
She would probably qualify as a shock trooper.
Oh.
Leon, give me an Arcana check. At the mention of magical transportation. Oh yeah. Yeah, you are well familiar with the various methods of magical transportation, and unless whoever is teleporting you or transporting you would be using a magic circle, which can do magic circle. Yeah, can transport sort of an indefinite amount of people within a certain amount of time. If they're just teleporting, they would be limited to 8 people that they could take.
I advise everyone of this fact.
And if they were using a teleportation circle, they'd have to go to a circle. And as of yet, you don't really know of one that's near the Shadow Forest.
Did we see one at the monastery?
you heard of one at the monastery. I don't know if you saw it.
Okay, because I was in the heart of the monastery with the talking mouse and the bomb and everything.
Yeah, that is unfortunately not where the circle is.
Okay.
They don't want people teleporting into the reliquary.
Oh yeah, I guess not. The mouse would give away all their secrets.
Yeah.
All right.
So that could limit things potentially as well. So what would you like?
Yes. So that would be us and 2 others. Wait, no, it was 8.
Whoever's teleporting you plus 8. So yes,
Yeah.
you plus 2 others. No, you plus 1 other, assuming
Yeah.
Alphonse is going.
Yeah, I
with
was just gonna
Exactly.
say leave Alphonse too.
Yes.
There's Alphonse, and then of course there's the name I don't remember, but the character to come.
Yes, potentially. There is a bard that might want to go with you.
I'm like,
Right.
do we actually have more room?
Right. So then I guess Leon will be saying, like, so we should figure out who this last individual would be, as well as the location that we would wish to arrive.
It is probably best not to teleport directly into the Shadow Forest, so maybe to the edge of it.
Well, or to the temple,
Or to the temple, yeah.
because if there's an item from the temple, that would make it easier to teleport there. Talon, do you have anything? Do any of us have anything? No, they took away your cloak.
But they gave me a new one.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we could teleport to the monastery.
That would be at the northern end of the forest. I think where you'd end up going would be further south, but you could still travel there.
Well, Alphonse and Gildy would probably have an idea of the best place to go. So what would they say?
Gonna take a look at the map here for a
Right. I just want to remind everyone about the other time that we traveled magically and ended up in water and were injured by it.
Gildy shudders.
Yes.
As I remember.
We wish to avoid such things, and Talon's cloak would make it more likely that we would arrive safely at the monastery. And then we would be in a safe location as well, not just a random location in the wilderness.
There is also
Sorry, go ahead.
building Alphonse's house.
Yeah. You
True.
have people who know that location very well and probably have items from that location.
Yes.
All right. Is your cottage closer to where we want to go?
DM is nodding. Yes.
And are we sure there's no ambush waiting for us there again?
Probably. No reason for anybody to ambush you there.
Yeah. Gildy says, well, last time they were looking for Morgan and we resolved that. So unless someone happens to be after one of my other children, which seems unlikely, I think we should be okay.
All right. So then Gildy's house?
So you can teleport to Gildy's house. You need, if you're just taking 8, you need 1 other member, but potentially if an additional group of 8 could join you, that might take a second day, but that could also be potentially an option.
We could spend that day fixing Gildy's house.
Yes.
We already fixed Gildy's house.
You spent some time fixing it before.
You
All right.
patched it up a little bit, but
Yeah.
there's probably still some work that could be done.
All right. Do we want to spend a day at Gildy's house? And then
that.
head into the
Probably worth it to
Gildy
get
mutters
bring
she'd be
help.
like, it would be nice.
All right, then.
All right.
We shall do that.
All right, so you have yourselves plus one other, and then potentially a second group of 8 that would come along. If you were going to do a second group of 8, any preferences for who might be in that?
Yes, sure. What?
Fair.
I mean, I think predominantly it would be the people who would be interested in going with us.
Yeah. And admittedly, if Kess and the twins are, more interested in fighting the other fight, and that's why they're going to join, it doesn't make sense for them to come with us.
Yeah. So I feel like we would want recruits, or volunteers.
Yeah.
So if we can get a group of volunteers, then sure. And if we can't, then we can do it alone, I'm sure.
Of course.
And Alphonse would be very keen to make sure that, as they're trying to find volunteers, that he's maybe even going a little bit overboard in describing the terrible things that could happen, because he was very unhappy for a long time being enslaved in the thing, and so he doesn't really want anyone else to go through that unwittingly.
As a quick side note, what might be a reason that Wisp would want to come along on this particular adventure?
Well, she's very keen to meet new people and see new places, and she's probably never even heard of the Shadow Forest, and she probably doesn't. Well, are there lots of forests around here? She's from the mountains. No, so she doesn't know what a forest is really, and just kind of wants to know what a forest is.
So curiosity mostly.
Yeah. Okay. Those cats.
Yes. Curiosity never hurt them. Okay.
I don't think she knows that phrase.
It's not a thing in the Tabaxi community.
She'll learn it. It'll be the last thing she learns.
It's doors. It's doors they have to worry about.
Yes.
Rocking chair.
Yes, you sort of take this back and have another conversation with Kess and the guard twins now that you sort of have some more information. And sort of given sort of what they're hearing about sort of people coming, the guard twins are like, yeah, why don't we take the long way back? We'll sort of help any way we can, and if our paths cross again, we'll be happy to help you guys out. But they sort of look around and we're really good caravan guards, and this would have been a fun quest. There's probably a lot of people here that are a lot better suited to this than we are. So yeah, I mean, it's been nice, and we really appreciate you guys sort of hiring us on and taking us on this wild and crazy adventure. It's been interesting. I never would have seen the Feywild. That was just amazing. So they're quite happy. Kess sort of hums and haws a little bit, and who went specifically to tell them? Just you, Mint?
Wasn't it Leon insisted that she be the one to invite Cass? Because I think I hired on Melinda and Belinda.
It was Talon, I think.
It was Talon.
It was Talon. Yeah. Okay, I knew it was somebody went and really wanted to invite Cass themselves.
It was Talon, and then when Kess joined, Leon was really excited and did a terrible job of hiding how excited she was at Kess joining.
Yeah.
So, Talon, did you come along?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Yeah.
All right. Kess will actually draw you aside. And she hasn't actually been using her other forms a lot while she's been here. She's been in her sort of usual halfling form, but she sort of does a quick turn of her ring and becomes a half elf for a moment, and sort of grabs one of your hands and holds it and is like, if you really wanted me to come, I would go with you.
I would, but I feel your heart, wants to go with the others. And I would not want you to do something that your heart, wanted you to do. So I will hope that one day our paths may cross again, but I feel you should, follow where your heart wants to go. And it is a good fight. And they'll be lucky to have you.
And she sort of twists the ring again and becomes a Golgoth woman, who's at least sort of mostly at your level, and sort of leans in and sort of kisses you on the cheek. It's like, I appreciate that. I have found something here that I have not. I'm feeling something I haven't felt in a long time, and I hope our paths do cross again. And she sort of releases your hand and just sort of walks away.
Helen will just kind of watch and take a moment.
Okay. And when you bring sort of this back to Bimini, he's sort of has a strange look on his face. Like, I talked to the wizard. Unfortunately, he could only transport about 8 at a time, and probably actually, well, let me quickly double check. How many could he do? Got him somewhere. Where is he? Let me have a moment here. There we are. Yeah, unfortunately, he could only transport 1 group per day. No. He could transport 3 in 1 day. He just couldn't get back home that same day. Or sorry, 2 in 1 day, but he couldn't get back home that same day.
Well, we don't want to strand him.
Well, he can go the next day. So potentially, yes, that they sort of two groups of 8. And yeah, Bimi's like, there's been a request, oddly, for someone who wants to come with you. They're new to me, new to this area. They're allies, and has sort of made a case for why they would like to go with you. If you're willing to have them, I think they would definitely. Their skills seem to be impressive and sort of on your level. And as far as the second group, we could send perhaps 2 of our shock troopers and 6 regular troops. Does that sound like a decent sort of? That would be about a rough squad of or 2 squads of men to send along with you.
That does sound all right.
Okay, we will make the arrangements. When would you like to leave? In terms of like actual supplies, again, they don't have a lot out here, but any pretty much basic things you'd need. You could have, food, water skins, basic weapons, ammunition, that sort of stuff. They can supply you. Magical stuff, not so much. But if you wanted to inquire about that, I'm sure you could ask as well.
Okay. So, yes. We definitely need some potions. I myself am completely tapped out, and I know that the rest of the group is running low, as well as some potions per the shock troops and other soldiers you'll be sending along with us. Basically, everybody should be stocked for, I'd say, at least a week, if not 2 weeks worth of rations. There is some hunting in the Shadow Forest, but considering some of the creatures are corrupted by shadows, it's hit or miss as to finding food, although we do have a ranger, and that helps a lot. So yeah, we can definitely move faster if we all bring some food. Apart from that, I can't really think of what other... it might be best to speak with one of our members about if there's any spell components they need, but I otherwise can't think of anything magically related. Except for light spells. Light does help hurt the shadow creatures.
I mean, you do have some things along that
yeah,
vein
we
as
already
well
have
at the
some,
moment.
so it's not a dire need.
Yeah. Okay, so give me one sec. All right. So yes, you are each outfitted in terms of, since you specifically asked for potions, they can't spare much, but everybody is given one regular healing potion. So everybody in your group plus everybody else who's coming along, you can add one to Wisp's character sheet as well. And you can choose between an elixir of health, which cures any disease afflicting you, removes blinded, deafened, paralyzed, and poison conditions. So that's one option. This is sort of, you get one for the entire group of one of these three. So either that or a potion of giant strength, or a potion of heroism, which would give you 10 temporary hit points for 1 hour, and as if you are under the effect of a bless spell in the same hour.
So we each get to pick one of those two?
No, the entire group will get one of those three.
Okay.
So which one would you like?
Pass.
If we haven't had any indication that the elixir of health would help us in anything, I would say probably the potion of giant strength for Tor, just because he is.
Thought we already had one, didn't we?
Might.
But we might need more than one.
That's fair.
Yeah, but it's not going to do a whole lot for Torok because he's already so strong.
Yeah, giant strength brings it up to what, a 22?
It depends on the type of giant. So the minimum is 21, maximum is 29, but that's very, very unlikely. You'd probably get like a maybe 21, 23 sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, because Tor's already at 20, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
so
strength is only 12.
Yeah, you give it to Mint. I mean, that would be just hilarious.
Yeah. So heroism could also be interesting. Get some extra hit points and bless spell.
From what I recall, the last time in the Shadow Forest, some of the people who were brought back around from the being under the influence of the corruption were, if they weren't fatigued, then they were terrified. I'm actually wondering about that for anyone we may find, just so they can keep their wits about them and not accidentally run off into danger. Also, if any of our own troop becomes corrupted, then it's a way of just keeping us safe.
But it would be good for one use on one person.
Yeah. And they will be inside a dome, so they're not going to run far.
Yeah.
It's true as well. The giant strength would also help out people like Leon too, so.
Not really, because I'm not going to be in melee combat. And
Might help Talon.
Yeah.
Could help Talon, yeah.
When he punches people in the butt.
And Jacob.
But he wants the giant butt punch.
Sure, let's go giant strength.
All right. Potion of giant strength. Whoever wants to can put that on their character sheet as well.
All right. Do that.
So you are outfitted. How long are you going to stick around here before you head out?
I figure. I mean, Leon would be suggesting the next day.
Gildy and Alphonse are
One
anxious
last
to go as soon as possible.
Yep.
We could all potentially sleep, camp out at Gildy and Alphonse's too.
Yeah, in fact, it's late in the day. If you're willing to go now, that would make it a little easier on the wizard. He could do the other trip early tomorrow morning, and that way sort of do 2 trips relatively close together.
And that way we can prep on the other side while they prep here and then come.
Why don't we do that?
Rob, I think you'd mentioned this maybe right before the session started tonight, but there was possibly like an item swap or something. Was that here, or was that something totally else? Or
That was a possibility for things that might happen.
okay, never mind then.
Yeah.
So yeah, so Talon's fine to go now or whenever.
So you gather your things together, and you are visited by that same high mage that Leon has come to know. Who sort of gathers you together and sort of you all hold hands and casts a spell that transports you flawlessly to Gildy's house.
Hooray!
And leaves you there, says he'll be back tomorrow morning with sort of the rest of the group. And who came with you? A tabaxi that I believe we introduced in the last session, named Wisp, is sort of come along to join this group in particular to come with you. Seems just like really sort of curious and sort of eager to go, but also like a little eager to sort of have conversations with you and get to know you and what are you like. And yeah, a very intriguing person to sort of have with you as you're, trying to bed down that night and sort of starting up a little bit of conversations like, so who are you? Where are you from?
So, Rob,
Yes.
the potion of giant strength on the site, they have every single different type listed separately. Yep. Which one did we get?
All right, give me 1 sec. I will sort of roll for it here. Okay, actually, you know what? I'll give you a slightly greater chance. Okay, so unfortunately, you got a potion of heal giant strength.
So the most common one. Cool.
Yep.
No problem. I've added it.
I gave you a chance of getting up to a fire giant strength, which would have been 25, but it did not happen. All right.
Still better than nothing.
Yes.
Yep.
So this is in fact I'm just kind of saying the tabaxi who came with you is actually the bard who was playing the previous night as well, and is more than happy to sort of treat you with some tunes as you're, setting up in Gildy's house, or even sort of camping outside Gildy's house that evening, and just sort of tries how subtle is Wisp?
Not subtle.
Not subtle at all. Yeah, that's what I seem to recall. So tries not very subtly, just like, so who are you? I'd love to know about you. And like willing to, tell about themselves as well. Has lots of interesting stories of, Thurn and their tribe and some of the things that they've seen. But seems very interested just to sort of learn all about you. Yeah.
I'm just pretty happy to chat.
Yes.
And he's like he looks at her and he's like, oh, I've never seen a tabaxi before. I have seen a cougar before. Do you want to see me as a cougar?
And she's like, we.
And he transforms into a mountain lion.
There you are.
Cougar.
That is indeed a cougar. We do have those in the mountains around where we live as well. I have seen some. We also have druids very much like you that have all sorts of various interesting shapes as well. I'm thank you for treating me to this. And what other sort of fun experiences have you had? What interesting tales do you would you like to share?
Well, he transforms back and he probably tells the story from the day before the battle where he was a bear, because he's very excited about that.
Yeah. Just sort of as a curious note, of any of you who might be willing to share bits and pieces with Wisp.
Wow.
I don't think I think Tor's getting better, but he's not quite talkative yet.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair.
Talon is not about keeping too many secrets anymore, but you still need to warm up to
Yeah.
people. So Talon.
Yep, that's
And
fair.
I think Leon is too busy playing through scenarios and being like, what spells do I need to prepare? What did they hit us with? What do we need to counter? Ah, yes, there was this, and they could possibly be doing that, and all of these things.
I think Jacob would bring the jug over and pour a couple beers and
Nice.
strike up a conversation. So sorry, your name again was?
Well, most people call me Wisp, but my full name is Shadows Whisper in the Cliffs.
Phenomenal. My name's Jacob.
I have experienced some of these human and other races' names that are much less descriptive. Does Jacob mean something?
Well, sometimes it means horse. And I do feel a little jealous. I feel like there should be more to my name. How does it decide it? Like you are probably the first Telbraxi I've come across. How are your names chosen? Maybe I can use that for inspiration to add to. Can I add to my own name?
I generally one does not pick their own name. It is given by the elders or the parents of the tribe to commemorate usually something significant that happened in or around the time of their birth. And when I was born, there was strong winds that were moving through the cliffs near our home, and this was the name that I was gifted with.
And perhaps my name should be Jacob of the evening when the drugstore was not open.
Yes.
I'll strike that. and the mead was flowing freely.
Yeah, that would be very interesting. Are you a purveyor of mead?
I dabble. In fact, I have an unlimited supply. Well, 8 gallons. There's 8 gallons a day, but there's a gallon a day.
Yes.
I do enjoy. How about you? Or do you partake?
How imbibe is Wisp?
I would say not very.
Okay.
Like she'll have some, but she doesn't
Yeah.
drink to excess.
Yeah, she will drink to be friendly.
I will pour an oversized mug. Well, although we are in Gildy's house, so there's probably not too many oversized mugs in here.
You will definitely pour her an oversized mug. You will pour her like several little mugs. It's just like, yes, all right, and she'll have a sort of a bit of a conversation with you and get to know you a little more, and sort of again tell you some tales of life in the mountains and Thurn. Mint, are you willing to share anything?
Now that there is actually drink that has been poured, even though I should be helping tidy up and fix the house a little bit more than I had done, Mint kind of wanders over and goes, "Is there a mug for me?"
Without even looking, I take one of the glasses that has been pre-poured and slide it over to Mint.
There you go.
Oh, thank you so much.
So yeah, the three of you have a nice sort of conversation and have some few drinks and get to know each other a little bit more. And the next morning, the rest of the troop arrives. You have spent a little bit of time fixing up Gildy's house. It's looking a little bit better still. Still probably needs like a good week of work to really get it back up to sort of fully livable condition. But assuming you're ready to head out, we will leave things there and pick that up next time on the next level, where we will see what happens with the trip into the Shadow Forest again, and see how our group fares with the help that they have against the minions that are in there. So just a reminder, we're always looking for fun suggestions things to have for our offers for our sessions. The hot springs was a suggestion that we apparently had some fun with. So neither of those really work anymore. If there's anything else that you'd like to find out about, give me a second. I'll pull up a little bit of a list here. So again, things like just even really general what you'd like to see in the game, creatures or people or types of people that you'd like to meet, items that could be found, whether magical or mundane, and even if they're mundane, sort of maybe have some significance of some sort. Call outs to movies or genres that you might like to see a little bit of. Again, we did a bit of getting to know a bit of a character, and we got to know a little bit more about Talon and where Talon was from. We could do more of that as well. Yeah, so anything like that, send us your ideas. We'll use a little bit of those in sort of the beginning part of the sessions as much as we can to, yeah, help you guys have a bit more of a say in what's going on. And until next time, we shall see you later. So yeah, take care.